Welcome to Potter's History, and today we're going to do a Potter's history of the lead pencil. It's as simple as that. Lead pencils. This is a bog ordinary one, finished from one of my kids' pencil cases. So, when's a lead pencil not a lead pencil? For those of you who are curious, you may be happily surprised that lead pencils actually don't contain lead. They're made of graphite. Now, graphite is a form of extremely pure and very soft carbon. So, what makes a mark in here, you're actually leaving marks of pure carbon. And graphite actually is so strongly associated with writing, graphos, graphic, or to do with writing, that's the name for this particular type of carbon, graphite. Now, once upon a time, back in the day, Britain, yes, the UK, the old art. It's where the British Empire that went out and conquered the world and invaded India and told a whole lot of people what to do, and then lost the American colonies. England was actually a resource magnet. I mean, we know that the Phoenicians and that were dealing with Britain for tin. They were called the Tin Isles back then. But when pencils began to get noticed in 1500s, that were actually mined in a place in Britain. So back in the 16th century, 1565 or thereabout, I'm not going to be too firm on the dates, it's a while ago, none of us where we're living, the British came across a deposit of nearly pure graphite in the county of Cumberland, and started basically creating basically styluses, basically pencils, things that look not too different from a screwdriver. Pure graphite. In fact, they found it worked perfectly good on paper, far better than the whole ink and stuff like that. And you could actually rub it out. You could remove it, unlike ink, which is a bit challenging. And that's how it stays for well over a century. In 1795, a French chemist actually patented putting these little strips of graphite into clay and baking it, and therefore creating incredibly fragile but functional pencils as we would recognize them. So, and then everything kind of like stays the same. And I mean, people start involving wood and stuff like that. But in 1795, so it's after the French Revolution, the French are out there, Napoleon was about to kick off what he was doing. And this French guy says, look, this whole sticks of graphite and that's not really workable. Let's try encasing them in stuff, wax them in clay, and bakes it. So we know that the pure graphite would melt and the clay would form basically pottery. So initial pencils were actually graphite in pottery. Now, about the same time as our wonderful Frenchman Nicolas Jacques Coutet was having his idea with the old, let's make pottery pencils, the Germans were beginning to experiment with putting grooves of wood and then kind of whacking those things together. And there's various degrees of success. I mean, the pencil took a surprisingly long time to really be gotten right. And the Americans in around 1812 in Boston really started kicking this whole business off of making sure the groove was right and the graphite was of a high quality and all that. And the simple fact of the matter is, by 1847, the pencil had assumed its modern form. The Americans had figured out that if you used wood, which means you could sharpen it, the pencil, and that it was a lot easier. Wood was far more susceptible to being mass-produced. You could just do a whole lot of planing, bang, 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 and you could mass-produce your pencils. Just literally pop, 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 pop. The same sharpeners were invented about the same time. Now, there's a little fun fact. Why pencils are not perfectly round like biros. There's my biro, which I've just grabbed. We call them biros in Australia. Biros roll quite readily. whoops, that one rolls straight into my cup of tea. Pencils don't roll. Pencils are often hexagonal. And the simple reason for it is that a hexagonal pencil, go out and try this yourself, kiddies, you can do this one at home. It's actually made so that they don't roll off desks for kids. Otherwise, your little kiddie, your grade 2, is going to spend half the day picking his pencil up off the ground, off the floor of the schoolroom. And that's the reason why pencils are hexagonal. They're not perfectly round, unlike the modern ink pen, which indeed is. And as someone who's not long finished his university studies, I can tell you there's an awful lot of rolling off desks, often at the worst possible time. So these babies are made, as you can see, quite, so they're not round, but I think this one's triangular, yes, because that way the flat surface is there for the pencil to not roll off your desk. Who would have thought? There is an urban myth about the pencil. Back when there was the Soviet Union, back before the early 1990s, so basically for you millennials, basically back in prehistory, there is the urban myth of the Americans investing millions of dollars to get a pen to write in space, because as you can understand, in orbit, there is no gravity to actually draw the ink out of the pen, so it wouldn't work. And the Russians just took up one of these, worked perfectly fine. As to the truth of that, I am not going to answer for it either way. It makes for a fascinating story, and if you like slagging off at Americans, and I'm sorry, those of you who are watching this in the US, the question is, do we like slagging off at the Americans? The answer to that question is, who doesn't? It's a bit of a trick question. Yes, that is the answer. The Americans spent millions of dollars and basically were ripped off by the Russians, who were a fair bit poorer and a fair bit more pragmatic. So that is your product history. It starts out in the 16th century with the discovery in Cumberland of a natural resource that the British were the only ones to have this high quality graphite. They start doing whole lots of just sticks, which obviously I'm splicing into this particular video. The French eventually decide in 1795, let's try getting this strip of graphite and putting it in clay. And about the same time, the people just to the east of them, in what is modern day Germany, start experimenting with putting the graphite in wood. And the pencil assumes its modern form in Boston in the USA in about 1812. Certainly by the time of the American Civil War, the pencil is well and truly a pencil as you and I both know it. It looks for all the world like this. And pencil sharpeners are no longer large knives. They're the ones that you actually recognize. Perhaps I should do a product history of the pencil sharpener next. So this is my product history. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe or follow if you're watching this. Yes, I don't have an Instagram account for this one. I ran out of Instagram accounts, but subscribe, and there'll be more product histories of pretty well anything. I have ADHD. You should be afraid of just where I'll go wandering. Which product history will be next? I'm Odin. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends about me. Bye.